Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and welcome to the insect tier list. So I'm filming this at 1:01 a.m. in the morning on a Thursday. I'm feeling pretty tired, but you know what? It's whatever. It's whatever. Look, I just saw Dante post a video about reacting to it, and I only watched like 2 minutes into the video, and that video looked fire, right? So I couldn't not make a reaction to it. So let's get right into it, yeah?
Play of the game.
Woo! Yo, hold up. Oh, ew. No. Skip this, bro. I gotta get this down. Ew. Ew. Oh,
Insects are one.
Alright, look. What y'all think about spiders? Like, I feel like they're S tier. They definitely be S tier. Like, they be up on them boards, up on the charts with with ants as well. Spiders and ants are definitely S tier. Like ants got such good tactics. Is spiders can just like their maneuver, like the maneuvers that they can perform are just so S tier. Like
Has ever seen. Nowhere else in nature will you find such an incredible concentration of abilities that are not only overpowered but also extremely unique. It's tough to even know where to start when talking about what makes insects such a successful group, because in a lot of cases it's not just that their individual abilities are overpowered, but some of them feel like they should be mutually exclusive, since they're just insanely OP when used in combination with one another.
True.
We'll see what I mean once I get into the tier list, but first, a brief overview of the insect faction's general attributes and history.
yeah, ants and spiders are
early
definitely
Carboniferous expansion.
S
The
tier.
devs bumped up the atmospheric oxygen level, which allowed members of the arthropod faction to adopt larger sizes and more costly abilities.
He acting like this is a game.
And while most of
He
the
said
arthropod
devs.
player base was trying to dominate the land by leveling up their size, a small offshoot
Leveling
of the
up their
crustacean
size.
player base opted to forego the gigantism trait, and instead used this oxygen bonus to unlock an ability never before seen in game: flight.
Bro.
Because these new creatures were the very first to gain the ability to fly, the air became entirely their domain for the time being, and would remain that way until reptiles unlocked the ability several expansions later. Insects are extremely diverse in their abilities and stat spreads. In fact, they're so diverse
What is
that
that?
it's impossible to include them all in a
Big
single
freaking
video.
head.
I'll
Oh,
be
my
keeping
mom,
things
that's a
fairly
pretty
generalized, but truth be told, many of
Okay,
the groups I'll be
hold
discussing
up. The boy just polished his shell for the girl.
today have so many standout members
Looking
that they
good,
can
looking
easily be
good.
an entire tier list in and of themselves.
Not gonna lie.
So it's a little tough to pin down their general attributes,
Not
but
gonna
there are
lie.
a few commonalities. Being members of the arthropod faction, all insects are granted the exoskeletal armor perk, which greatly raises their AC compared to soft-bodied builds of similar sizes, with the only downside being a massive reduction in those same defensive
heck is
stats
that?
for a short time every time the player levels
Why is he
up.
white?
This makes insects quite tanky on average, allowing them to excel in combat. The insect build also has access to the compound
Oh yeah,
eye
that's
perk,
that's
which
fake.
grants them vastly improved awareness
No
compared
way,
to
that's
other
real,
arthropods
right?
like scorpions and centipedes. With 360-degree vision, their ability to avoid obstacles, dodge attacks, and pursue targets while flying is far superior to most other flyers. This
I didn't even
enhanced
see him
perception
there.
is important because insects tend to have naturally high stealth. So in order to compete with other insect builds, acute vision is required. We've only just scratched the surface of the insane abilities insects have access to though. For a more in-depth look, let's get into the tier list. At the bottom of the tier list, we have the
We got a silverfish. Yo, I used to be in my basement. Like I have like a little like a TV in my basement where me and my brother used to play, and them things we used to crawl across the floor when I was like playing Halo back in the day. Yeah, only the real ones know about that. Anyway, look, these things used to scurry across the floor like my wooden floor. I don't know.
silverfish.
I heard they like damp places too, or like wet places.
The silverfish
They
is
like
the most
water.
primitive insect build still in
Something like
existence. It kind of blurs the line between what is and is not considered an insect, and not in a good way. Unlike other flightless insects, which decided to respec and drop the flight ability in favor of more refined strategies, the silverfish build actually never had access to
This is
it
what
in
I'm
the
talking
first
about. Look at
place.
this. Look at this freaking stuff, bro. These ants got the best tactics and moves. Like this is why they belong in S tier. Cause look at this. This is crazy. They can make like bridges and stuff and like lift like really heavy objects.
Aside from having an
Well,
exoskeleton,
heavy objects
they
to
don't
them.
have any of the abilities that make insects powerful. They do not have wings and have essentially no combat abilities. They have fairly low defenses and get bodied left and right by pretty much everything, with their only useful stat being
Exactly.
decently high movement speed. Their special
They're
ability
literally
allows them
useless.
to gain XP from eating cellulose and lignin, meaning they can farm XP from wooden structures, which normally don't grant any experience.
He said farm
This ability
XP.
would be fairly powerful in forest biomes, but because they're such weak combatants, they tend to actually stick to urban areas, feeding on things like paper and cloth, in the relative safety of houses, apartments, and office spaces.
Ew.
Even there, they aren't completely
Ew.
safe though.
Ew. Look
While
away.
no build is ever
Look
truly
away.
safe in the insect meta, the silverfish's extreme
Nasty.
lack of useful abilities
Nasty.
places it firmly in F tier.
Ooh,
That's
freaking hate
honestly the
spiders.
only insect build I
Actual
believe deserves
gross.
an F tier ranking. Most insects are quite viable, and
I
even
respect
the less
that.
viable ones tend to have at least a few useful things going for them, even if those things aren't necessarily broken.
See, look, it depends on what you're rating it, right? Are you rating it on like how useful it is or how dangerous it is? Because spiders, like, they're dangerous and useful. Like, they kill like, what do they kill? Like flies and stuff like that, right? I don't. Other than that, I don't really know what they're used for. They're just there to be freaking annoying, and ugly.
First in D tier, we have
But like,
Phasmid build, which
I don't know.
includes walking sticks and leaf mimics. These builds
I'm guessing
sport what are
he's-
unquestionably some of the most
yeah, he's definitely rating them by how
impressive
useful they
camouflage
are.
abilities in the entire game, second only to color-changing builds like the octopus and chameleon. As impressive as these are, though, the question I constantly end up asking is this really necessary? Because with the exception of insects which deliberately lower their stealth as part of the aposematic coloration strategy, insects as a whole already have an above-average stealth, and are usually able to maintain this while still speccing into other equally impressive abilities. Their camouflage can only take them so far. While they're near undetectable while remaining motionless,
heck?
walking sticks still need to move to find food.
Dang.
And while they do mimic the movement of a swaying leaf or branch, this certainly isn't perfect. In
Oh, yeah,
fact,
that's
if
a
you're ever
branch.
caught in an environment where camouflage doesn't match as
Oh,
well,
yeah,
their instincts to sway and move can actually end up
yeah.
giving their position away
Oh my
even
God.
more, rather than aiding in their attempts
Get the
to hide.
moves like
Some
Jago.
phasmids do possess chemical defenses, but as we'll see further up the tier list, this attack is quite mild compared to the heat some other insects are packing. Phasmids have a similar game plan to sloths, complete with all the major flaws this strategy is riddled with.
Oh, I thought that was
Although
a
at
stick.
least phasmids don't completely forego all common sense and make a dangerous trek to the forest floor once a week just to poop.
Moths and
Next, in D
butterflies.
tier, we have the Lepidopterans, the faction which includes moths, butterflies, and skippers.
These things are just
At
beautiful.
first glance, these may seem like absolute bottom tier builds. They're among the most vulnerable builds in the game when it comes to combat, with extremely squishy defensive stats
True.
and utterly abysmal offensive abilities.
True.
Many of the larval forms of these builds are 100% defenseless and have a mobility stat in the single digits, literally the freest kills in the game.
True.
However, the Lepid player base is quite crafty and has come up with a few ways of at least sort of mitigating their many weaknesses. Caterpillars and adult lepids alike can adopt quite convincing disguises, some designed to help them blend in, and some designed to intimidate. Granted, these strategies often don't hold up against high intelligence builds, but it does help. Some caterpillars spec into quite potent defenses, like spines and toxins, which make them simply not
Ew.
worth the potential damage to take on.
But that's
And
smart.
credit where credit is due, even though they still are fairly defenseless, butterflies
Like,
and moths do have
useful.
excellent mobility and can fly much greater distances than
I don't know what
most
butterflies are
insect
useful for though.
This enables them to avoid high conflict areas of the map and reach higher quality loot that might be too rare for most players to rely on. Their massive wings, in addition to being highly customizable for a variety of stealth or intimidation purposes, also just make them look much larger than insects of comparable body sizes, which helps dissuade attacks. But ultimately, lepids still take plenty of L's, and most high-tier insect builds have quite oppressive matchups against them. So they're
Yeah,
definitely a
true.
below average faction.
Yeah, they're very
That's actually
vulnerable.
it for D tier, and I know it might seem like we're moving up the tier list quickly, but again, insects are a massively successful faction, and
Okay.
are going to be concentrated in the higher tiers.
I agree. I agree.
At the bottom of
Cockroach.
C tier, we have the cockroach. The cockroach is the ultimate survivor, which opted to spec into mobility, stealth, and a multitude of elemental resistances.
Yo, these things are nasty as heck, bro. These things are freaking nasty. Like, if I'm playing a game or something, and I see a cockroach, like, run across my screen, you know how far I'm jumping out of my chair? Like, I'm dying right then and there. I'm jumping out my chair, then dying.
Abilities.
From just sheer
While they don't pack much heat,
freaking
their flat shape allows them to easily wedge themselves into locations that are extremely
scaredness or something, frightness. I don't know.
They're rather clumsy flyers, but they do have an above
all in all, I'ma
average
die.
movement speed, enabling them to quickly scurry to cover if they see a predator player approaching.
Imagine
However,
the thing
when
starts
caught out in
flying
the
at
open
you.
or
Like,
backed
come on
into a
now.
corner, they're fairly helpless and easily one of the most vulnerable builds in the entire insect faction. They're also somewhat carried by human mains, making temperate and hunter servers viable for them, because really, as impressive as their toxin and radiation resistance abilities are, they're quite vulnerable to the cold, and would still be mostly confined to jungle servers, if not for humans unlocking the fire control ability. The biggest variants may be able to tank 1 or 2 hits, but even then, with no way to fight back, they're still pretty screwed if they fail to outright escape a fight. Next in C tier, we have the earwig, a fearsome-looking generalist build.
That's an earwig.
That is not correct. Because according to the encyclopedia of...
have a giant pair of mandibles on its rear end, called cerci. As fearsome as these cerci forceps are, if we actually check the earwig's base stats, we quickly notice that, just like all of its other stats, its power stat is actually quite mediocre. As menacing as the
that's
cerci
alright.
are, the actual piercing damage they can deal is fairly minimal, and can even be deflected by the most basic of armor. And even against builds without armor, the damage is so low that larger builds still don't really need to.
Oh, come on now. That's just brain dead. Why would you walk in front of that?
Still, just because they can doesn't mean they do.
Definitely level 1.
The earwig's intimidation factor alone is oftentimes enough to protect it from conflict. And credit where credit is due, the forceps are actually fairly decent in matchups against soft-bodied insects.
Oh boy, you got that.
To carry their targets much better than they could with their jaws. And while it may seem silly to have opted for rear-facing weapons instead of the more typical forward-facing ones like mandibles and rostrums, the position does actually serve a purpose, in that it allows earwigs far greater access to burrows and tight spaces, where they can hide out and avoid conflict altogether. Of all of the weapons insects have access to, cerci might be some of the most unorthodox, which probably contributes to its ability to intimidate other players. However, I think to get out of mid-tier, earwigs need to actually have the ability to back up their threat display. They would do well to spec into some sort of venom. Venom-infused stings are a fairly common attribute for insects, so this feels like a bit of a missed opportunity.
This is nasty, bro. I do not like these close-up shots.
Don't overestimate this build's abilities.
Crickets and grasshoppers.
Here we've got the orthopterans, including grasshoppers, crickets, and katydids. These are the first mobility-centric builds on our list. While they're quite capable flyers, their true power comes from their saltatorial hind legs rather than their wings. Flight is an excellent defensive ability, as it allows the user to get out of reach of an attack's range. But this utility is lessened if their ability to get airborne has too much startup lag. And so instead of using their wings to get themselves up into the air, a powerful jump enables the orthopteran mates to escape vertically at instant speed.
Y'all ever seen those videos of like grasshoppers or like these little thingies? These grasshoppers or something, crickets or whatever. They escape like these big bugs by just juking them out, by just jumping and stuff.
It's extremely difficult to get within striking range without alerting them. And because their jump has
actually kind of OP.
Data, landing an ambush strike on an orthopteran can feel near impossible at times. And even if a player does manage to secure a grab,
vanish from thin air.
Their hind legs can function as quite an effective combo breaker. The spines on their legs augments the damage their kicks can deal, meaning that if a grasshopper can tank the first few hits of an ambush attack, they may be able to turn the tide of a confrontation and escape after dealing serious damage to the attacker. With that said, I think there are a few flaws in their strategy which I think keeps them out of the upper tiers. Grasshoppers can jump so far that there's really no way of knowing what sort of situation they're about to put themselves in. In a similar manner to the flying fish, using such a drastic escape option can sometimes end up putting you in a worse position than you were before. Especially if your local meta has a lot of spider players. And although they do present a challenge, most predator players aren't
I'm not about to watch the whole spider tier list, bro. A whole thing based on spiders. There's gonna be a new spider every single scene. close-up
Grasshopper's
shots.
kicks and can either tank the damage
Oh,
outright
no.
or one-hit the grasshopper before it even has a chance to retaliate. At the
True
bottom of
bugs.
B tier, we have the hemipterans, a diverse order of insects with a few things in common, including generally having high defense
Look
and
at these
being somewhat
things.
shield-shaped.
That's stink
However, the
bug.
most notable thing is that rather than slicing or pinching mouth parts, the Hemiptera build opts for a piercing rostrum, perfect for puncturing through tough surfaces. For the majority of Hemipteran builds, this allows them to farm XP from sources that are normally hard to access,
True.
like the energy-dense sap inside
kinda
trees
OP.
and stems, or the starch inside of seeds. However, there are some Hemipterans which use their sharp rostrum to deliver a venomous bite that is able to pierce through armored targets. Their venom is powerful enough to one-shot just about any other insect, and can even deal severe damage
Stop.
to larger
Oh my
foes.
god.
The only major shortcoming here is that these so-called assassin bugs tend to actually have fairly low stealth, opting for the aposematic intimidation defense I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they pop out with
And
them
on top of all
legs.
that, they have fairly low mobility, making actually ambushing another player kind of difficult if they're actually paying enough attention to simply dodge the attacks and flee.
Damn.
Some do break this trend though, and opt for both better camouflage and high aquatic mobility, making them some of the most fearsome aquatic builds in the game. On the herbivore side of things, Hemipterans tend to fare a bit worse. They usually still have fairly low mobility and low stealth, and their defenses may be higher than the average, but are nowhere near as impenetrable as some of the builds higher on this list. They tend to rely on a chemical defense similar to some phasmids, which is where they get the name stink bugs from.
Ew,
However,
why
similar
would-
to
oh my
phasmids,
God.
these defenses also tend to be a bit
Oh,
lacking, and
I did not
often
see
fail
that
to deter
coming.
attackers. So
That was
certainly a group
nasty.
with some standout members
That was
and fine
nasty.
for XP farming, but still nothing too broken.
I'm surprised if spiders get like
And topping
A
off B
tier,
we
B
have the
tier.
Neuroptera,
Oh, okay,
a
never
rather
mind.
clumsy build with some pretty pathetic looking base stats. Genuinely one of the least agile flyers in the entire game. However, looking at the
I've
final
never
form
seen
of
one of
this
these.
build paints a highly misleading
Yeah, I
picture
have.
of
I
its
probably
capabilities.
have.
The larval form, which is the form they spend the vast majority of their time as, is a brutally effective predator build for any player who prefers the camping playstyle. Taking a look at the larva's stats, we see that they have incredibly high power and stealth for their size. Antlions have a devastating, venomous bite, which they use to one-shot unsuspecting players before draining all of their life points with their hollow jaws. Because of their ability to construct pitfall traps, their passive stealth rating is extremely high, making their ambush playstyle unbelievably effective. As if escape wasn't hard
heck?
enough, once the prey gets caught in their trap, the antlion even has the ability to launch projectiles to stun its
Dang.
target, making escape a near impossibility. I
ooh.
have an entire video dedicated to the overpowered abilities
Kinda
of
cool.
Neuropteran larvae. But in short, they are what the earwig pretends to be. If you took the earwig's Circe, put them in front and made them sharper and gave them deadly venom to boot,
Yank,
you'd have an antlion.
yank,
So why the weak adult form? Having spent all their evolution points optimizing their larval form, they spend hardly any time at all as adults. They don't even have the ability to eat in this form, and really only exist to be a vessel that allows players to find each other and
looks-
complete the mating quest line. Something they lack the
That
ability
looks-
to do in their much less
Never mind.
mobile
What did he say?
larval form. So while I do think it'd be more impressive if they didn't take such a massive cut to their power level during their final level up, there's no denying that for the vast majority of their playtime, these builds are an absolute menace to encounter.
Yeah, not bad. Ooh, mantis, here we go.
A tier, we have a personal favorite of mine, the
We getting
mantis.
good now.
Mantises have a fairly straightforward playstyle consisting of slashing and grabbing their targets using powerful spiked raptorial forelimbs. If we take a look at the mantis' stats, we see that the mantis has one of the highest base power stats of any non-venomous insect. It also has a stealth stat similar to that of a walking stick,
True.
which it desperately needs in order to be able to get within striking range of its targets. Its clumsy
Yeah.
flight and slow ground movement speed makes chasing prey basically impossible. However, what they lack in movement speed, they easily make up for with strike speed. The mantis' strike is lightning quick, to the point that it's easily able to hit targets that are normally considered
Ah.
hopelessly
Oh
evasive.
my.
As powerful as these strikes are, one weakness of this strategy is that the grappling attack doesn't immobilize the target, and actually brings them within range of a counterattack. And while the mantis' large size enables it to tank most counterattacks, attacking a venomous target can end up being a serious blunder for a mantis player. So definitely a powerful high-tier predator, but not one that's so invincible that
God
mantis fans
dang.
can get careless.
Yeah, I'm punched up, smacked up, backed up, flacked up, macked up.
A tier, we have the flies. This does get a bit confusing due to the amount of other builds that use the word fly in their name. But this group, the true flies, are defined by a very specific feature.
What was that?
This does get
Lanternfly, butterfly, deerfly, horsefly, dragonfly, botfly, mayfly, mosquito, damselfly, horsefly. No, bruh. Look, I found this thing in my I think it was called like striped fly. It was this. What is this? It's called a flesh fly. Dude, these things are big. These things are massive. This is not it. Well, look, these things are massive. I found this in my room the other day. It flew past my screen. It was massive. I'm not gonna lie. It was big.
A bit confusing due to the
The biggest flies I've seen.
The word fly in their name. But this group, the true flies, are defined by a very specific feature. True flies only have 2 wings. This might seem like a major trade-off, but while it does leave them more vulnerable to having their flight ability disabled from taking damage, the perk they unlock in return is more than worth the risk. Instead of a second pair of wings, flies swap them out for halteres, a sensory structure that grants flies an insanely powerful buff to their aerial maneuverability and their evasion. Their superior aerobatics make them all but impossible to land a hit on midair. And also enables predator fly
Speak from experience.
To launch
Can't hit nothing while they're midair.
Mid-flight, and take down targets that would normally be too powerful to confront head-on, but are unable to effectively counterattack during flight. However, most flies are either scavengers or parasites, using their quick mobility and superior reaction speed to weave past the defenses and avoid the sweeping counterattacks of larger players.
Yeah, that hurts.
While they do have an extremely short lifespan, there's no denying that they make the most of the time they do have, and are one of the most efficient and evasive builds in the entire game. But while flies are excellent aerial combatants, they are no match for the ultimate aerial hunter build.
Ooh, Dragonfly.
The Dragonfly is similar to the Crocodile in that it is one of the most well-optimized PvP builds that has ever existed in the game.
Yeah, these things are
already such an efficient build that across several
do his boy like that.
expansions, the Dragonfly has seen very few changes to its core strategy. They simply aren't necessary, as the Dragonfly is already equipped to deal with just about anything the devs throw at it. So what is it about the Dragonfly that has given it such a competitive edge? Dragonflies have the best aerial maneuverability of any build in the game, and the highest top flight speed of any insect. Unlike most insects, dragonflies have spec'd into the ability to move their wings independently of each other, which grants them the ability to move in any direction without needing to turn and face that direction, meaning they can strafe mid-flight and even fly backwards. This ability makes their flight more energetically demanding than it is for other insects. So this is a high commitment, high reward playstyle, in order to ensure a proper payoff for their incredible agility.
Snatch that boy.
Also spec'd into what is arguably the best vision of any arthropod. Extremely large, high-resolution eyes that take up basically their entire head, granting them full 360-degree vision.
That looks cool, but weird at the same time.
Potential targets around them with ease, and allows them to see attacks coming long before they're actually at risk of getting hit. Unlike many of the other builds on this list, which either have a powerful larval form but a weak adult form, or a powerful adult form that can only achieve this after enduring an extremely vulnerable
that's nasty.
The Dragonfly is a high-tier predator in both forms. While everyone knows they dominate the skies when they reach their max level, what you might not know is that as nymphs, dragonflies are one of the most vicious aquatic builds in the game, able to one-shot similarly sized fish and amphibian players. Now, while it was tempting to put dragonflies in S tier, they do have a few shortcomings. While they are generally able to see approaching predators before it's too late, they aren't particularly good at avoiding accidentally flying into
My boy got caught up.
They're easily trapped by spiderwebs and are often snatched out of the air when flying too close to another player. In addition, dragonflies cannot walk, meaning that their energy-expensive flight ability is their only option.
They can't walk?
To reposition themselves.
What?
Not that devastating of a weakness, but it's enough that this ancient
here we go.
S-tier.
Spiders and ants.
First in S tier we have the Beetle.
Okay.
Beetle is the epitome of the insect build. A bunch of extraordinarily powerful abilities that seem like they shouldn't really function properly when used in conjunction with each other, yet somehow actually end up synergizing unbelievably well.
True.
Beetles are the premier tanks of the insect faction, with an outer cuticle
that thing off my screen.
Just about any attack with ease.
That nasty.
It has such a high AC that it can confidently plow through a swarm of aggressive ants without taking any damage, something that even many reptiles and amphibians can't get away with. Now, typically
Stupid
when a build
Winston.
is heavily invested into defenses like this, it has to make a lot of sacrifices in
What
its other
insect
stats.
would be Winston?
This is the opposite of what we see in the Beetle build, as in addition to being the most heavily armored insect in the game, it also excels in several other metrics. The most obvious of which is its power stat. Beetles can obliterate their enemies in combat using powerful jaws and explosive chemical weapons. Their ability to bulldoze opponents with their forward-facing weaponry is hard to overstate.
Killing their own kind.
Their real damage potential comes
Not
from
fa-
beetles which
Hey,
possess
yo.
the ability to blast their attackers with a toxic or acidic chemical burst. But
Alright,
that's
that
not where
looked
the
like something
craziness
else.
stops, because although you'd probably expect a high-power tank to be a slow,
I don't know if I
lowering
remember.
build, beetles
Still here,
also
you know.
possess the top terrestrial movement speed of any insect. And if that weren't enough, despite often having heavy horns or giant mandibles, packing a tank full of noxious chemicals, being clad in heavy armor, and strapped with enough muscle to move objects far, far above their
Ooh,
weight
look at my
class,
boy.
the beetle is still able to fly
Getting that
without much
work.
issue. Now, they did sacrifice one of their sets of wings for additional armor, so they can't perform the advanced aerobatics that dragonflies and
That's alright though.
houseflies can.
That's alright. That's alright.
But the ability to get from point A to point B via flight is still extremely valuable, both for escaping danger and for reaching valuable points of interest.
Right.
In short, beetles have essentially every ability they
my
could
God.
ask for. They are an amalgamation of everything that makes the insect faction so powerful. And so it's no surprise that beetle species comprise a whopping 25% of all species in the game. They're so versatile
Really?
and adaptable that a beetle player can find a niche in essentially any server. They truly are the ultimate insect and deserve a tier list of their own.
Look at all that
incredible
armor.
As this combination of powerful abilities is, ultimately the beetle is still lacking the most powerful insect ability of them all, eusociality. Now, I have an entire video dedicated to explaining just how broken this ability is, and there's no question that the insects
It
that
is
incorporate it
broken.
into their game plan simply dominate all in their path.
What?
Now, technically, termites are a variant of the cockroach,
Hold up.
but they have such a unique and powerful
frick?
playstyle that lumping
Alright,
them in with
spider has to be the
mid-tier
other one,
cockroaches
right?
seems
Spider
disingenuous.
has to be the other one.
The termite queen is the longest-lived insect in the game, with a lifespan near that of a human or elephant. And it spends these many decades building one of the most powerful armies the game has ever seen. These termite armies are able to construct some of the most well-fortified bases in the game, giving even beaver dams and human skyscrapers a run for their money.
Damn.
Not only do they build incredible bases, but termites literally
Yeah, that's
transform
crazy.
the map in order to better optimize their colony's ability to gather
Termites are
resources.
annoying.
They
I didn't even go
pave
cap.
paths,
Like,
build ramps,
I was
and
up in
bridges.
Vermont like a year ago. Y'all know where that is? It's in Vermont. Vermont's in Vermont. I was up in Vermont and I was like gonna like chop a tree down, right? But then I took like an axe and I hit the tree with the axe. But then it was so soft, like the tree was so soft, so the axe just went right through the whole tree. Not like it was like a tree, already cut down tree. It was just a stump. So I hit it, and then the tree basically fell apart. And I looked inside, and there was holes literally everywhere, and termites all up in there. Like, it's kind of OP.
Important resource deposits. This efficiency allows them to support a huge army and command vast territories. Termites, despite being most closely related to cockroaches, have a combat style that is actually most similar to the spitting cobra, which, if you've seen my snake tier list, you'd know is also a top tier build. Termites can accurately fire acid from a needle-like horn on their face,
Okay.
dealing heavy damage to anything caught in its blast. Some
Kinda
termites
OP.
opt for giant slicing jaws instead of acid sprayers on their head, and are crucial for defending their base from an onslaught of
Dang,
invaders.
dang.
Termites are a somewhat imbalanced build, with crazy powerful forward-facing weaponry, but extremely vulnerable abdomens with no armor at all. This means
Right.
that oftentimes, despite a larger size, they are quickly overwhelmed if they get outnumbered and
True,
flanked.
bro. Just use your
Not
legs,
really an
run.
issue, as termites are proficient at defending in a phalanx formation, which covers the weak points of individual members. So certainly not a bad enough weakness to negate the top tier status of eusociality. But this weakness does mean that I gotta give the top spot to the other eusocial insect faction.
Come on.
Hymenoptera is
Ants,
a group of
bees, and
insects that includes
wasps.
ants, bees, and
There's
wasps.
no way spider
Unlike
was not in
termites,
there.
These insects are a bit more well-rounded, having decent armor all over, and tend to have both forward and rear-facing weaponry, with most hymenopterans packing strong jaws and a venomous stinger. The wasp's signature buzz and yellow banding are so infamous that almost every other insect faction in the game has at least a few members trying to replicate it to gain advantage on their own intimidation checks. Eusocial hymenopterans can build extremely complicated
works on me, I hate
structures
bees.
without the use of tools. They can launch organized attacks containing thousands of combatants.
Dang, just
They can
snapped his
capture
neck.
Prisoners, cross major barriers,
Yup.
and control territory to an absolutely incredible degree.
Yep.
Thousands of
That's
players
what I was
will
saying
lay down
before.
their lives in defense of a colony if need be.
Oh my god.
Ants in particular are masters of both empire building and military tactics, often having to wage war on multiple fronts while undertaking large construction and agricultural projects in their own territory. So, while beetles may take up a larger percentage of total insect variants, termites and ants both vastly outnumber any other insect build. And while
Yeah.
I don't base my tier lists purely off of population, there's no denying that the abundance of these insects is due to their incredibly powerful strategies and their ability to bend their environment to their advantage. In fact, the only genuine threats to you social players tend to be invaders disguising themselves as members of their own colony, but are really there to disrupt, steal, and attack. Many spider, hemiptera, and mantis mains adopt the strategy, and are incredibly successful in doing so. As the ant
Ew.
troops forage and browse unknown territory, the parasites weave their way
thing.
into their ranks.
Hate
Something
spiders.
similar happens when
I 100% agree with this list. These little things down here are completely useless. They're just there for being annoying and look bad, right? And like all the way up to here, no, here, it's kind of just bugs that are like creepy or yet kind of useful. Like cockroaches, they're just annoying and they look weird, and some of them can fly, which is terrifying, right? Grasshoppers, if you see them on the ground, right, and you're looking at it and it hops towards you, you're terrified, like you're running, unless you're some like Coyote Peterson like makeshift clone or something. I don't know. But anyway, look, that's the end of the reaction to the insect tier list. At 137. Ignore the voice crack. Okay, ignore it. But look, that's the end of this video. If you guys like this content, leave a like, comment, subscribe. It's been Prime Suka. Peace out.
Perfect.